Hello, all, and welcome to another edition of the Inside the Box podcast with Adam Bach. As always, I am Adam Bach. This week I am going to be pretty brief, as I am just finishing off my top 50 movie characters list that I had started last week. So I'm just going to get right into it. We got no sponsors this week. So all right, starting in at number 25. Number 25 is Dr. Frankenstein, which was Gene Wilder from Young Frankenstein. Favorite quote from the movie is when he goes, "Nope, it's pronounced Frankenstein." It's a great movie. It starts off really good from the beginning for me. My favorite scene is when he stabs himself in the leg with a scalpel in his lecture when he gets really heated during his talk with a student about how his grandfather's work was doo-doo. So that's pretty good. Number 24, Dr. King Schultz, Christoph Waltz from Django Unchained. I had Calvin Candy in the back half of my list on last week, and those two share my favorite scene in the movie, which is when they're talking about the Three Musketeers, and then that pretty much leads to shit hitting the fan. Number 23, I have Eric Draven, Brandon Lee from The Crow. It Can't Rain All the Time. Excuse me. I love this movie. It's, as far as superhero movies go, it's probably in my top 5. Very easily could be top 3. Unfortunately, this movie has spanned a ton of really bad sequels, and that is partly due to the fact that Brandon Lee lost his life filming this movie. I won't really go into it. You can look it up online. It's explained on there a lot better than I could ever explain it. And it is pretty long, so I'm not just going to go ahead and read it. Number 22, Roger Verbalkint, Kevin Spacey from The Usual Suspects. Favorite quote of him from the movie is, "How do you shoot the devil in the back? What if you miss?" My favorite scene for him is just the ending reveal of this movie. It's fantastic. So if you really haven't seen this movie, you definitely should check it out. The Usual Suspects. Number 21, Sergeant Nicholas Angel, Simon Pegg from Hot Fuzz. This, in my opinion, this is the best of the 3-flavor Cornetto trilogy. That also includes Shaun of the Dead and At World's End. This one's the best by far, in my opinion. It's the funniest one. It's the one that I can just go back and watch over and over. I do like both Shaun of the Dead and At World's End, but I feel like this one also gives us the best performance of Simon Pegg. And I mean, I love the trend that they started with this movie, which was having a former James Bond show up in the movie. This one has Timothy Dalton, and At World's End has Pierce Brosnan in it. So that's pretty fun. Number 20, I have Paul Schmecker, which is Willem Dafoe from The Boondock Saints. Anytime he's describing a crime scene in the movies is just fantastic. He's an FBI agent. There's one scene near it's not near the end. It's like kind of beginning to explain what's going on. When he's describing a crime scene and he's talking about how there's everything going on, and then he just shouts, "There was a firefight." Like, Willem Dafoe is just awesome at that point. Number 19, I have Batman / Bruce Wayne. And then I liked Michael Keaton and Christian Bale. As far as these two movies, as far as these go, uh, these two did it the best. Michael Keaton, of course, did Batman in 1989 and Batman Returns in 92. And then Christian Bale did Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises. There were other actors in different mediums, I guess with different media formats that did the role of Batman that I also really enjoyed. But since this is a movie character list, I have Keaton and Bale. I know Adam West did technically do a movie. It wasn't that great. He was definitely the best on the show in the 60s. And then Kevin Conroy as the voice of Batman in Batman the Animated Series is awesome. He, as far as voice goes, he is the voice of Batman for me. But I did watch that show growing up. That and the Ninja Turtles were about my two cartoon rituals as a child. Back in the early 90s. But yeah, Batman Bruce Wayne at number 19, specifically the Keaton and Bale ones. And then when they faced off against the Joker were by far their best moments. Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger, respectively. Number 18, I have Captain Jack Sparrow, Johnny Depp from the Pirates franchise. This is the day you will always remember as the day you almost caught Captain Jack Sparrow. The entire first movie is my favorite performance of the character. The first movie is they could have left off with the first movie in this franchise. The other ones have their moments, but the first one is hands down the best. Those other ones kind of are just Johnny Depp carrying a franchise on his back with an amazing performance. I mean, the fourth one, in my opinion, kind of got back to the whole pirate looking for buried treasure theme. The second and third one did heavily follow the Will Turner Elizabeth relationship, and it started to get it started to lose me. But Johnny Depp, hands down, is that franchise. Number 17, Mr. Blonde, Michael Madsen from Reservoir Dogs. You ever listen to K. Billy's Super Sounds of the 70s Weekend? It's my personal favorite. I love this entire movie. This movie is in my top 10 of all-time favorite movies. And Mr. Blonde is great throughout the entire movie, but by far his best scene is the razor blade scene. Number 16, Anton Chigurh, Javier Bardem from No Country for Old Men. He's super creepy in this movie, menacing and creepy. Hairstyle adds to it. Like the opening sequence when he uses the air compressor thing to kill the guy it's just like whoa. And I love when he's having the conversation with the convenience store guy about flipping the coin, and the guy doesn't want to call the coin because he's like, I don't know what I put up as far as what he's wagering, and he just replies back with, yes, you did. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it. It's like, oh my gosh, it's super intense. And just, he keeps going, call it. And, I mean, he doesn't really have to talk all that much in this movie to understand that you really don't want to agree to do anything he said because it's probably not going to end well. Number 15, I have Ellen Ripley, Sigourney Weaver from the Alien franchise. This one is pretty easy. First two movies are fantastic. They are kind of completely different types of movies. The first one being more of the horror movie, whereas the second one is more of an action film. This franchise was each movie was directed by somebody else. The third and fourth one kind of lose me. Um, I did see that Neil Blomkamp, who directed District 9, is doing a new Alien movie, and Sigourney Weaver is signed on. And from what I read, his movie is essentially going to make 3 and 4 pointless, which isn't really a bad thing. Number 14, I have Darth Vader, voiced by James Earl Jones, Star Wars Original Trilogy. Yes, I do. I am aware that David Prosy, I think is how his name is pronounced. He was actually the actor that was in the suit during the movies. James Earl Jones did the voice. He's everyone's favorite Sith Lord. He's one of the best evil. He's one of those characters. He's so good at being evil, but he does have redemption at the end of his story. He makes it fun to watch. Number 13, The Man with No Name, Clint Eastwood from the Dollars trilogy. Clint Eastwood won. When you watch these movies and you haven't seen him for a while, and you've seen him at like award shows or whatever since he like directed American Sniper, and he's directed Mystic River, and you see him in $1 Million Baby, and you see this really old Clint Eastwood, and then you go back and you watch these movies, A Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and you're like, oh my gosh, he is so young. And the funny thing is, he's already like in his mid-30s by the time he did A Fistful of Dollars. He does actually have names in each movie, but it's a different name because no one really knows what his name is. It's more like what the characters just start calling him. He went by Joe in A Fistful of Dollars. He went by Monco in For a Few Dollars More, and he went by Blondie in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Number 12, I have Han Solo. Harrison Ford, Star Wars Original Trilogy, of course, and he's just a badass. He's rude. He's bluntly honest, for the most part. But he does come through in the end, except when he's frozen in carbonite, because you can't really come through when you're frozen. Number 11, James Bond. I have all actors and James Bond franchise. As I did do, just 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was, I did an entire post on the James Bond franchise. I'm not really going to go into it. I did include all actors because even the worst movie, maybe not the worst movie, Die Another Day is really bad. But even the worst, like, the good ones that aren't necessarily good movies even resonate. So this franchise minus Die Another Day really lends to the James Bond character. Even George Lazenby had moments of being all right. Number 10, I have the McManus brothers. Norman Reedus and Sean Patrick Flannery from Boondock Saints. I do include these two together because there might be one or two moments of them being on screen without the other. You rarely get one without the other. It is kind of the tale of two actors as far as these go. Norman Reedus, of course, went on, and he's Daryl on The Walking Dead now. Everybody loves him. He's blown up, and then you got Sean Patrick Flannery, who hasn't really done a whole lot. He appears in a lot of, from what I was told, he appears in a lot of the sci-fi original series movies. I don't really watch a lot of those, but I think his biggest role since Boondock Saints was the last Saw movie. So yeah, definitely kind of a different career path for the two. But I love Boondock Saints. It's also in my top 10 favorite movies. Um, it's definitely one of those cult movies. And I would highly recommend it for anyone who likes action movies. It's fun, and then the scene with the cat. For those of you who have seen it, the scene with the cat is surprising. Number 9, I have The Bride, Uma Thurman from Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. This, the first movie is ridiculous. The second movie actually puts some story to it. I like the two, the two coincide with each other very well. The first movie is the better movie. But I do like getting to see more of Michael Madsen in the second one. I do enjoy him most of the time. But Uma Thurman is great. She just kicks ass in this movie. She's super intense. Number 8, I have Walter Sobchak from it's John Goodman from The Big Lebowski. Smokey, this is not Nam. This is bowling. There are rules. He is absolutely ridiculous. He is the perfect friend for the dude because they're completely different people. Walter is very on edge, very intense, whereas the dude is the laid back, kind of lets everything happen kind of guy, and they blend well together in this movie, and every scene with the two of them in it is just amazing. Number 7, I have Colonel Hans Landa, Christoph Waltz from Inglourious Basterds. This was his first kind of big role in America, followed up by, well, it actually wasn't followed up by Dr. King Schultz. I think his next one after that was the bad guy in The Green Hornet, which I actually thought he was pretty good in, and I actually liked that movie. But Inglourious Basterds, great movie. He of course won the supporting actor Oscar, not the supporting ass. Sorry. He is very fun in this movie, and he's a very good bad guy. I'm really excited to see him in the next James Bond movie. There's rumblings that he is actually Blofeld, even though his name that he's cast under is not that. But I'm excited to see what he does in the next James Bond movie. But definitely his best scene in Inglourious Basterds is when he's got Brad Pitt and BJ Novak captured, and he guesses what their plan or who they're working for, and he gives his line about that's a bingo, and then has to ask if he said it the right way. Number 6, the Joker, and I have Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight. This performance literally killed him. It's sad because I wonder what The Dark Knight Rises would have been without, or had he been able to make an appearance. I did hear an interesting thought from another podcast I listened to. They talk about how villains quite often become the heroes, or at least the fan favorites, and someone was like, well, it's very easily the Joker could have been teaming up with Batman in The Dark Knight Rises, and it was an interesting concept, but I don't see that happening just because they are such the polar opposite, and they very rarely can stand each other's company for more than a few moments. Number 5, Jules Winfield, Samuel Jackson from Pulp Fiction. If my answers frighten you, then you should cease asking scary questions. Samuel Jackson hands down his best performance. He is so awesome in this movie. This is also one of my favorite movies. His diner scene with Tim Roth, his scene at the beginning of the movie when they're trying to find Marcellus Wallace's briefcase. Just his scenes with his name is escaping me right now. Harvey Keitel, when he's with the wolf. Quentin Tarantino is Jimmy. All three of those are just great. He is maybe the most consistent actor in the movie. He's hands down the reason to watch the movie. I mean, not the only reason, but he's my favorite part of the movie. Number 4, I have Willy Wonka, and let me be very clear, I mean the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka, from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Johnny Depp's version was an abomination and terrifying. To give you a quick quote from Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka, "A little nonsense now and then is relished by the wisest men." He's so freaking charming in this movie. He's just amazing, and I read, and I feel like this is more known now than it was when I watched this movie when I was younger. What he basically his the thing he really wanted to be able to do with this character that led to him taking the role was at the beginning, near the beginning of the movie, when he comes out and is walking with the cane down the red carpet, and then he kind of falls over but into the role and reveals that he doesn't need a cane. Gene Wilder fought to be able to do that, and his explanation to the director was, because from that point on, no one will know if I'm telling the truth or lying. And that was like the one thing Gene Wilder wanted to do. Is like, if he couldn't have done that, he wasn't going to do the movie. And he's just amazing. I mean, like I said, number 25, I have him from Young Frankenstein. He's very good in Blazing Saddles. I can't think of any other movies off the top of my head, but everything I've seen him in, he's fantastic. So number 4, Willy Wonka. Number 3, I have Tyler Durden. Brad Pitt, absolutely amazing in this role. If you haven't seen the movie, very fun twist at the end. This movie is kind of a mind bender, so if you don't necessarily like mind bending movies, you might not want to watch this one. But it is very good. Number 2, I have John McClane, Bruce Willis from the Die Hard franchise. I guess I should probably tell you that the movie is Fight Club with Tyler Durden. I told you it was Brad Pitt, but not Fight Club. So yeah, number 3 was Tyler Durden and Brad Pitt from Fight Club. Number 2, John McClane, Bruce Willis Die Hard franchise. I do like the first one the best. I did do an entire blog post, and I'm pretty sure the first podcast was the Bruce Willis one. I did do an entire post to Bruce Willis where I talked a lot about John McClane. So I won't spend too much on this. He continually gets thrown into situations that he's not ready for, and finds like the most ridiculous ways to solve them. He's just great, and like Die Hard also in my top 10 favorite movies. Most of the characters in my top 10 are featured in movies that are from top 10. I think Tyler Durden might be the only there's a couple, but most of them are from top 10 movies. And number 1 of my top 50 movie characters list is the Dude, Jeff Bridges from The Big Lebowski. Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man. Love all of the dude's dialogue. Specifically, one of his character kind of quips or traits from the movie is that he constantly reuses stuff that's said to him in his dialogue to other characters later in the movie. I love that. That is one of the coolest features, I think, of him in the movie. It's also really funny at the beginning of the movie when he writes the check for like 89 cents, I think it is, for the half and half. Love the movie, really love the character. Jeff Bridges wore primarily his own wardrobe in the movie. The jelly sandals are actually his. He still actually wears them now and then, as I found out watching Conan one night. And I do have more honorable mentions. That way I can overwhelm everybody. I believe I mentioned it last week. I did actually do my list up to 75. Excuse me. And my honorable mentions are just some of the ones that go up to 75. I think I have 10 honorable mentions right now. I have Patrick Bateman, which is Christian Bale from American Psycho. Magneto, Ian McKellen, and Michael Fassbender from the X-Men franchise. Lester Burnham, Kevin Spacey from American Beauty. Natasha Romanoff, or Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. M. Gustav, which is Ralph Fiennes from the Grand Budapest Hotel. Celine, which is Kate Beckinsale, Underworld franchise. Jim Gordon, Gary Oldman, the Nolan Batman franchise. Can't really call him Commissioner Gordon because he doesn't come Commissioner until the second movie. Doc Emmett Brown, Christopher Lloyd, Back to the Future trilogy. Carl Spackler, Bill Murray, Caddyshack, and then Regan Thompson, Michael Keaton from Birdman. That's all I've got today. Like I said, this is going to be really brief. For those of you who check out the blog as well as the podcast, and haven't checked out the blog yet, I feel like most of you check out the blog and then just happen to listen to the podcast if you've got nothing going on. I just want to thank everybody because the blog reached 200 views with the previous post, the first half of the top 50 characters. So I do want to thank everybody for sticking with it. I know every once in a while, I can be rambly, or what I talk about is more for a specific audience, like when I did the entire Bruce Willis one or did the entire James Bond one. In the future, I would just say if anyone's got any suggestions about something they want me to throw my opinion on, you can always reach out to me. The email for the blog or the podcast is acbach27@gmail.com. That's acbach27@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at acbach27, spelled the same way as the beginning of the email. I feel like most of you who listen to this since the podcast, I think at the most has gotten 11 views for a single one. So most of you probably follow me on Facebook. So obviously you can, direct message me there or write on my wall or whatever. The only other thing that this week's blog features that I'm not going to mention on here is I gave a review for the movie This Is Where I Leave You. Absolutely loved this movie. If you're curious to read the blog and see what I said about it, as always, I'll post the link to the blog on the podcast. So That's it for this week. I hope you all enjoyed looking inside my box. Until next time, you all have a great weekend, and see you all later.